Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Reltio, Melissa, and Erwin by Quest. I'm Stephen Fagg, Director at Database Trends and Applications and Unisphere Research. I will be your host for today's broadcast. Our presentation today is titled Achieving Trusted Data, Data Quality, Data Governance, and MDM Trends. Before we begin, I want to explain how you can be a part of this broadcast. There will be a question and answer session. If you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the question box provided and click on the submit button. We're going to try to get to as many questions as possible later. Now, to introduce our speakers for today, we're very excited to have with us Abhi Vasuvasam, Field CTO at Reltio, Dimitri Garter, Director of Special Projects at Melissa, and Danny Sandwell, Technology Strategist at Erwin by Quest. Each speaker today is going to deliver a brief presentation, and then we're going to dive into a group discussion. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass the event over to our first speaker today to get things started. Welcome to the broadcast, Abhi.
Hey, thank you, Stephen. Really excited to be here. Thank you, everybody, for having me, and looking forward to this conversation that we're going to have here. I'd like to get started by first introducing myself. My name is Abhi Vasuvasam. I'm a field CTO at Reltio, and my specialty is enterprise architecture and solutions, coming in from the big picture and looking at how data unification is the data foundation for governance and AI and ML initiatives in your organization. So with that, I'm going to jump into the presentation here, and I just want to set the stage really quickly. Reltio is a master data management platform. We are born in the cloud. We are native to the cloud, so that makes us very unique in the market in that sense that because we started our journey on the cloud, we have had a lot of great maturity on the being able to use the capabilities on that platform. We are on Azure, we're on AWS, and we're on GCP. And of course, we're one of the leaders in the industry in this space. But what I really wanted to emphasize in this conversation is about where we see data unification, what MDM can do for you going in 2025 and beyond. So without further ado, let me just jump right into the presentation here and start with what I think is really important, and that is to set the stage for where we are in 2025. What are the problems we're trying to solve, and what we see is coming up in the future that we need to make sure we are well positioned for. So as an MDM platform, our focus is primarily on data unification. But we know that with the concept of data unification comes a lot more. There's a lot more you can do with that. And so with that being said, one of the things we're noticing, and this has not gone away, this won't go away anytime soon, and that is this relentless march of the V's, and that's what we call it. And that is sheer volume of data that's coming into your data platforms and being transacted within your organization and being generated. The variety of data now, okay, and that's become really interesting because people don't just want to deal with data, the traditional data that we know of, which is just simple attributes, simple entities. Now it's all kinds of data packaged into unstructured formats, images, videos, audio, whatever else you can think of over there, documents of any type. That's becoming a real challenge in terms of managing it and all the data that's locked in there that we want to unlock. And last but not least, the variability of this, just sheer amount of variety of these exact types of data. So that's one of the challenges that we're already facing, and it's only just getting bigger and bigger. The other thing that I see is I see data teams constantly under pressure to deliver ROI on the data that they have already and the data that the organizations keep asking for. So these are two trends that I just think are omnipresent. They're just here. They are driving our data management teams to work as hard and feverishly as they can to surmount these problems that they're encountering. But with that being said, while they are doing this, we're also noticing there's emerging trends, these trends that are coming up that are pushing these teams into new uncharted territory that they need to start exploring and be prepared for at the same time while they're doing with the work we already talked about, which is this continuing set of problems that they're dealing with. And what are these things? Well, customer experience is becoming exciting and becoming basically a standard that everybody expects. When it comes down to engaging with an organization, a company that manages data, customers, their expectations are basically immediate. Their expectations are real time. They want the experience to be as if they were walking into a store and talking to a person. and getting that level of engagement. To simulate some of that, obviously, we're starting to explore a lot of AI initiatives. Enterprise AI is becoming a big deal. And to run anything AI related, any initiative you have from agentic AI or any kind of RAG that you've introduced into the organization or any other type of predictive analytics that you want to run, what you're going to ultimately need is this deep trusted data. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go through this because trusted data is becoming important. It's becoming valuable in organizational settings, and a lot of companies have data. But when you ask the question about whether it's trusted data, they always tend to have a little bit of questions about it. You know, I trust it. It's relevant in my domain, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the whole organization trusts it. So that's another topic that I think is very valuable and important to kind of unpack. But these are the trends that we're seeing right now in the market. We're seeing these problems that have long existed, and we're seeing these emerging trends that we need to be able to tackle. So the way we've kind of organized this presentation is under 5 themes that I think applies to our platform, and I think we're doing a very good job of. And I think it's the way the industry is actually trending. So I'll talk about the 5 themes, and with that, I'll go ahead and jump into the first theme. The first theme is centered around the golden record. And the golden record, as you always know in MDM, has been a very popular concept. Obviously, it's a foundational concept of what MDM is based on. But that's expanding. That view is changing. We're not just a golden record for a handful of entities that are very core to your business that you manage. We're becoming more robust now. People are expecting this golden record to have data in it that was never envisioned that it would ever be a part of it. Everything from interaction data, everything from product usage data, behavioral data, analytics and derived attributes and values from unstructured data. All this kind of information is being expected to be captured now in the same profile. Gone are the days where it was just, simple attributes. Now it's this very rich profile. So where do we see this going from here? We actually see this evolving into the next stage, and that is we look at MDM, we look at our platform and data unification as becoming a data system of record. Not just a system of record for your customers, not just a system of record for any kind of business entity that you want to manage. We actually look at this as a data system of record for all the data in your organization. And so how do we get there? We start to build and start to create the capabilities in the platform to be able to handle that. And one of the things that we're focused on and we're delivering is our Customer 360 platform. And we have customers already building their capabilities on this. We're very excited about this offering that we have out there. We think this is going to start to build the foundations of this data system of record for any organization that wants to build that. So with that, I'm going to jump to the next theme. When you have all this data, and you obviously, once you collate all this data, people are wanting access to this data. And we've noticed that the next theme that we see that's actually very, very important in the market is how quickly can you get this data out? Now let's just go to traditional MDM platforms. They struggled in getting data out at high speed, at near real time, if not real time. They could never do that. Okay, they've struggled at that. And you had to build all kinds of other things to make it happen around your platform. Well, the beauty of where I think MDM is heading right now and where Reltio is already at is that we have built these capabilities to make that data, that robust data system of record available to you at light speed. What that means is we can deliver the data that's in this platform in less than 50 milliseconds. Now that enables you to create really engaging experiences, personalization, any kind of system of engagement that needs that real-time touch point. You can come straight to our platform and you can get it from there. Along with that, you want to make sure this data is also consistently available. And for the data to be consistently available, we have to make sure that it is running on a platform that is robust and has 99.99% availability at any given point. So not only is the data available at the drop of a hat in 50 milliseconds or less, it's also consistently available throughout the life cycle of your business. The next theme that we see that's kind of emerging a lot is that we still know that data management especially governance and all the work that happens in a data management platform is extremely manual right now. Okay, we notice that across the board, there's anytime you do any kind of matching or merging in a MDM platform, you end up with a lot of potential matches that you need to work with and things like that. Things that data stewards need to get involved with. Data stewards need to be spending a lot of time resolving these issues. We think we should be doing less of that, the manual work. We think we should be all the work that's being done that's at the very automated and very shallow level. It needs to be picked up and it needs to be handled as quickly as possible by an automated agentic platform. So that's another area that we're building out. It's a lot of agentic capabilities to be able to handle this data management capabilities. Moving on to our next theme, the other thing that we really want to focus on is our ability to be embedded and deeply integrated with all cloud platforms. We think that the more deeper the integrations are, the easier the integrations are to adopt, the more folks will trust and have the ability to pull data into our platform and be able to master it and be able to provide that trusted data. So another area that we've been heavily focused on is building deeper integrations with the main cloud providers out there, Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, and of course with all the data management products that are available to you and exist in your data management ecosystem. We're especially focused deeply on building out all the analytics integration capabilities because we think that's really valuable for organizations. And last but not least, one of our key themes here is theme number 5, which I'm very much a huge fan of, and that is ease of deployment. I think this is something that is lacking across the board in a lot of data management platforms, and we are taking a very important step towards making as much of the capabilities on our platform as self-service as possible. It needs to work right out of the box as soon as you install it with very little configuration. And after that, you should be able to get value to into your business ASAP. So I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to go over our platform and our thoughts behind data unification. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand this off to Dimitri.
Awesome. Thank you, Abby. That was a really terrific presentation, and I think gets right at the heart of a few of the things that I wanted to talk about as well around the system of record. So nice to see everybody today. My name is Dimitri Garter. I'm Director of Special Projects at Melissa. Melissa is headquartered in Rancho Santa Margarita in California. I am not speaking you today from a speakeasy. I'm in fact at an off-site location and had to borrow a meeting room for today. So I apologize for my setting. Hopefully the content will make up for it. So appreciate everybody's time today. So a little bit about Melissa, and then I'll jump into some details around how we get to the system of record that Abby was talking about. So Melissa has deep subject matter expertise in contact data quality. We have over 40 years of experience in this industry. We're a global company. We have assets and staff located in 6 global regions, and our focus is really around customer B2B and B2C contact data management, email address verification, phone verification, postal address verification, and then a host of other business use cases that are supported by those technologies, including identity verification, anti-money laundering, know your customer, and so forth. We also do a lot around data analytics, enrichment, data profiling, matching, deduplication, geocoding, and so forth. And I'll talk about some specific use cases where we bring these technologies to bear. My personal background, I've got 35 years of experience in the data quality space. I co-founded and was the CEO of a company called Global Z International, which is also a company with deep expertise in global contact data management. Global Z was acquired by Melissa 2 years ago, and so now I'm pleased to be working with the Melissa team in a subject matter area that I'm very familiar with and comfortable with. So what separates our business model a little bit from some other approaches to data quality is we really focus data quality verification, normalization, and improvement around this concept of referential data. So this is just a slide that shows some of our data partners. We do use rules, some probabilistic and predictive approaches towards improving data quality, but much of what we're doing is really driven by referential data behind the scenes. So we're actually using systems of record for things like address files, phone number, referential data to actually validate at a very granular level the attributes that we're working with, and I'll show some of the power behind that. This chart just really shows sort of the evolution of data quality, what we call active DQ at Melissa, from sort of a high-level validation approach, verifying zip data and other types of addressing data, through to more sophisticated approaches of verifying customer information, email and phone matching to the name, and then full verification of the contact information, not just is the address correct, but does that individual actually exist at that address? Do they own that particular phone number and email address, and full identity matching in that context? And looking at that another way, the way we like to think about data quality in the context of identity verification is that data quality really serves as the foundation for all of the other downstream processing that needs to occur to achieve that high trust in the data. It starts with verification of the individual attributes, and those stages build on one another to then lead to proof of address, national ID checks, and then ultimately what we call our 2+2 verification of identity, which is validation of an individual's identity against at least 2 data sources using at least 2 validated attributes. So it's quite a granular process, and the foundation of this is based on verification of data against known, proven, high-quality referential data sets. So I want to talk for the remainder of my comments around sort of a specific use case of how we've seen this applied in real-life situations. And this is sort of the classic MDM use case that we see with retail customers, which is the idea of data fragmentation. So the typical scenario here is that a global retail enterprise has data touch points that are fragmented across lots of different data silos, different regions, different business divisions within their organization, perhaps some retail touch points, e-commerce touch points, customer service, and so forth. And getting a cohesive understanding of who the customer is really challenging in this environment because the data is so fragmented, and it's hard to see how the customer actually behaves. And this gets to this question of system of record, which Abhi really touched on. So the solution that we've seen applied in the context of granular data quality and verification, what we've branded Accu360 is utilizing real-time cleansing, matching, and merging capabilities in an MDM. We're MDM agnostic in terms of how we deploy our services, but these concepts apply across all platforms, which is how do you actually match transactions across this fragmented environment to build that system of record, or that single view of the customer, which is so valuable to how organizations interact with their clients. There's nothing more frustrating for a VIP customer of a high value luxury retail brand than to walk into a retail store and have the beauty advisor, for instance, ask the question, have you ever been to a Chanel store before? If they're a VIP customer, the BA should already know the answer to that question using quality data. So the way we've seen this problem approached in live situations in real time in MDMs is starting with the cleanse process. So here we have an example. I'm sorry if the text is a little bit hard to read, but essentially what we've got here is 5 customer transactions fragmented across a number of different data silos. So data is being captured in all of these different source systems, perhaps in different regions in the world, and different IT technologies that were really not designed to speak to each other or to integrate. And the data is really fragmented across all of these data silos and difficult to harmonize into a cohesive view of the customer. So the first step of the process involves the cleansing of the information. So here we have 3 different addresses in France, and through this granular data verification process, we're able to identify the actual premise level address, normalize, standardize, and correct the address to be per the postal standards or the addressing standards in that particular country. So having done that, we now have much higher level of data that quality that allows us to perform more sophisticated analysis. Same thing with a phone hygiene process. We've got a malformed, perhaps inaccurate phone number coming in. By being able to standardize that phone number against referential data sets, we can not only verify its integrity, but we can also improve the format and the content, normalization of the data. Likewise for email address information, where we can verify not only whether the domain exists, whether it can actually be reached by a mail server, but whether that individual actually owns that email address and can be reached via that email address. So having standardized and normalized and validated that information, it then leads us to matching. And here we've got basic 2-attribute approach that we use, which is the customer name and at least one other valid contact attribute needs to match in order to find these matches within and between data silos. So here we've got the same name at the same address in Paris, and we were able to pull these 3 transactions together despite the fact that they occur in different source systems with very different types of data normalization content. On the front end, we now have matchable data that we can use in analytics. And even though there is not a postal address in common between these 2 records, we're able to pull in additional matches by using other valid attributes. So through a cascading approach and an iterative matching approach, we're able to go after any valid data attributes across the silos and within the silos to build a much more sophisticated and accurate view of who the customer is. And having done that, then that leads us to building that golden record. So this is the system of record that Abhi was talking about. And only by being able to match these transactions across the different data sources are we able to do that. And then in the process of validation, we're assigning validity scores and quality scores to these attributes, which allows us to not only identify fragmented data and pull them together, but actually pull the best of the attributes from these data sources into the golden record. So we're not only enhancing the view of the customer to include all of its downstream transactions, but we're taking the best of those attributes and building a really high quality picture of who the customer is. And then at the end of the process, we've got really this system of record that allows us to really understand who our customer is. So through matching of transactions across these different data silos and bringing them together, we can then go back into data sources and reparent all of the other downstream tables. So we're not only pulling in contact attributes into the system of record, but all of the other transactional data, product interests, other types of behavioral indicators, which really leads to a much more rich understanding of who the customer is and allows us to maximize the customer experience. So it's in a nutshell how we work with complex global data. Really appreciate the time today. And with that, I'm going to pass the presentation over to Danny at Irwin.
Thanks, Dimitri. Thanks, everybody. For those of you that aren't familiar with Irwin by Quest, yes, we are a solution that looks at primarily data intelligence that was built on the back of the little data modeler that could. So if any of you are as old as me, you might remember Irwin Data Modeler, which is still going strong. We were acquired by Quest a couple of years ago and now are part of a much larger data management and identity management and platform management solution that helps organizations maximize their investments and get more out of what they've invested in. Really what I wanted to talk about today, especially looking at the data trust and the topic for today, is a framework and a process that we use with our customers that invest in our technologies to really get themselves to the point of delivering what we've called trusted data. But I think with all that's going on in the world today, we're moving that over to what we call AI ready data, because I think AI ready is now the benchmark for data risk, data value. And this process allows us to look at any data assets that you have across your organization in the cloud, on-prem, legacy, brand new, and be able to start get your arms around it so that the folks that are leveraging this data and really delivering value to that can do that in the most efficient, effective way possible, and really have trust in the data that they're using to provide insights to their organization. So it's a step where we can meet you where you are and really allow you to start to organize what you have, curate it, make sure that it's well governed, that the quality is where it needs to be and well understood, be able to score that data, and then provide it in a very prescriptive, and I'll show my age, social media type application that allows the consumers of data to interact with the data teams, the governance teams, but also get the majority of the questions that they may have around fitness for use and fitness for purpose of that data, and be able to really get to those answers much more quickly and thus get to value much more quickly with their organizations. Again, all of your data can go through this process, and we have lots of great customer success stories around democratizing data and really driving value from data. But today we're going to look at a couple of the ones that they're now taking to that next step to meet the needs of AI and the needs of a modern data platform within their organization. So AI governance, the concept of data products, the concept of a self-serve marketplace, and then, of course, data value scoring so that they can know what's the best and most appropriate data that they can access for their use case. So data products, I've got a long background in delivering data systems, early data warehouses, all of those things, and have been with the Irwin product since its early days back in the 90s. And really what the same problem that organizations have had, which is getting more value from their data faster. So this idea of building data products as opposed to just getting data sets and tossing them over the fence and hoping for the best is really about making the data much more prescriptive, make it much more reliable and explainable so that organizations can understand what the data is used for or what should be used for, what it shouldn't be used for, what they can expect from that data, what are the parameters around that, who owns that data. So it's really about taking a sort of production and curation approach to data and making sure that when we give that data to the organization for use, that they can use it without having to call up people, send emails, and become priority number 11 on a list of 10 for all those folks in the data world that they generally get those answers from. AI model governance. So, again, applying those same 7 steps, we now have organizations that are taking their AI models and bringing them into that data environment because, data is 75% of AI. I'm a data person, so I might be a little bit biased. And really becomes the biggest roadblock to success for organizations. So being able to be aligned with your data governance, your data quality capabilities, and the data intelligence around that, and then leveraging that to go a step further to be able to certify your AI models, the data sources that are feeding it and training those AI models, and then being able to observe that, both the data and the models and the performance of that over time to make your adjustments, remediate, and make sure that you're not being subjected to toxic data or drift of any sort from the data that you initially intended to train those models. So again, using those 7 simple steps, now we can bring AI models and AI governance into your data governance and data intelligence environment so that, again, you can leverage all the work that's being done and take that and extend the value even further because AI is very much a special use case for data, predictive analytics of all sorts. But once you start putting it into a box and minimizing the human interaction through the process, you want to have that strong foundation and that strong level of trust that you require for that. Then, of course, it's how do we get data out to the organization? How do we make everyone in the organization a much better data citizen? Because, one of our old taglines was data governance is everybody's business. But really data is everybody's business in today's world. So being able to take all of that good collection of what we have and consolidating it together so that you can score data and actually show them what's the best data source for that. And not just based on quality, but based on a number of factors where we bring that back in together and get a much more holistic score of the data that they're using so that people can understand that. And then publishing that out into an internal marketplace where folks can, as I said before, get all of the answers that they may need and really understand that data at the level that they need to be very effective with it. So increasing their data literacy over time, making everybody a better data citizen within the organization, but also providing them a clear view into what is the best data and what data is going to meet the needs and deliver the results that they need to deliver to the organization. So it's really about, bringing together quality, context, governance, bringing that into a data intelligence environment that's going to help the practitioners, it's going to help the strategists, it's going to help everybody understand where are we today and where do we need to be with our data. Turning that data into data products that are very clear and prescriptive, have the guardrails in place so they're well governed, you understand the purpose and the outcomes expected, moving that into a data marketplace so all of your data citizens can, discover what's out there, access the data that they need, and interact and collaborate with all the folks on the team in a way to basically, raise the level of data quality, data governance, and data value across their organizations. So it's really about making sure that all of the data that you have in your organization is AI ready, it's well understood, it's accessible, and easy to access so that you're not losing that time to value component that's really, really important to organizations. So if that sounds interesting to you, please come and speak to us at Irwin by Quest. Take a look at how we bring this all together in a suite of products that are fully integrated, available to you on premise or in the cloud, and really start to supercharge how folks access, understand, and leverage the data within your organization. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Stephen, and we can get or let the games begin.
Absolutely. Thank you, Danny. Gentlemen, start your engines. It is time for our group discussion. Danny, since you presented last, I'm going to let you be our leadoff hitter. A lot of pressure, but I'm sure you'll succeed here. The question is, in terms of achieving trusted data, what is the number one challenge, in your view, that organizations are facing?
I think the number one challenge that they're facing is again, a deficit of data literacy and an easy way for folks to understand the data that's accessible to them and leverage it in the way that's most valuable for their organization. And I know, what Avi and Dimitri talked about was about actually getting all of that data, breaking down the silos, doing all of that. But behind that, you need that metadata visibility. You need to leverage that metadata to curate it both from a quality perspective and a governance perspective, and really be able to present that in ways that are going to, shorten that road to data value. So I think that, the disconnected ecosystems, all of those things are struggles that a lot of organizations are still struggling with, and there's great technologies out there for that. But from our perspective, it's now how do you put that out there for people to really use in an effective way? And I think that's still a challenge that organizations are trying and starting to get their head around.
Understood. Dimitri, do you agree, or do you have a different view on this?
No, I agree with that, and I'll just add that one of the practical challenges that organizations have in achieving this level of trust is the basic question of how you measure data quality. So the metrics around what is considered to be good data versus bad data, or trusted data versus untrusted data, are not necessarily clear to data users or even data stewards within an organization, since that requires a fair bit of expertise or subject matter expertise or specialized knowledge. So we always encourage that organizations build really clear rules and guidelines around what is considered valid data and what's considered invalid data. Score that and make those attributes available to users so that they know that when they're looking at data dashboards or extracts of data elsewhere in the organization, they may not necessarily know where the data is coming from or how it's curated, but having metrics or validity scores as metadata attached to those attributes is really critical to help users with understanding whether or not they're using valid data.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. Avi, what's your take on this question?
Yeah, this is something that, number one challenge that we see from a master data management point of view and data unification is the silos. Everybody loves to operate with their data, thinking their data is good enough for their area of the business, right? Their functional area. They can run it. They believe they trust it. It's good enough for them. And I think one of the things that we find out is that when customers get into a program where they're doing a whole master data management project and they're starting to bring in data from various sources, similar data from various sources, and putting it together. First of all, it exposes a lot of data quality concerns that come out all of a sudden. They start to look at each other and go, wait a second, we've been operating on this data on this side of the fence, this side of the organization. You have similar data on another side, and it looks quite different. And now is the first time this conversation is starting to happen about who should we trust? Who has the right data? Because customer service just talked to a customer, a few days ago. They may have the most accurate data. Where you had billing and you had invoicing done that was years ago when they bought the product. Is it still accurate? Do you know? And we've been operating on that. So this data silos and the fragmentation of data is something that I think continues to be one of the biggest problems we have in the business. And the reason is their own fragment and their own silo of data looks good to them. That's
a fantastic point. And it can get pretty tribal too, with the managers and the stakeholders for different data silos. Avi, I'm going to let you go first on this next question. How is AI impacting the current state of data quality, data governance, and MDM?
Yeah, so this is multi-layered, I think. Thank you for this question, because I think this is looking currently and looking forward. First of all, from AI, I think it's just revolutionizing the way we are even putting data into our data management platforms. Okay, there are things that we weren't able to do a few years ago, which was just look at data and ask questions about the data and say, hey, classify this data for me, or give me an optimal data model for this that I can tweak, and then I can say, hey, this is the way the data should be stored or structured. Describe this data for me. There's some other questions we're able to ask now, which is you may have a lot of data pipelines and all these things built, a platform or something like that. You're able to put that into a system and say, explain this code to me. Explain what this is doing to me in simple layman's terms so that I can migrate and do something different, better in my next iteration. So AI tools are really playing a huge role for us in terms of getting data into our platform, helping customers understand what they already have, and then being able to put it into our platform. So I think that's really, really valuable. And then to the next point from there onwards, our platforms are being built with so many AI capabilities, agentic AI capabilities, data profiling capabilities, governance automation, all these different things. I think we're taking that data that AI tools you're using to understand the data before it goes in. Now we're just enhancing it by using the data in the platform with AI to kind of enhance what's coming out of the platform. That's the way we see it.
Sure, that makes sense. It's iterative. Dimitri, what are your thoughts on this question? And are you seeing a lot of customers and prospects out in the marketplace that want to improve their data ultimately because they want to do more things with AI?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So AI, it's funny, we're going to be looking back at recording this webinar 3 years from now and say, we had no idea what AI was capable of doing. That, I'm a true believer that the trajectory is very, very difficult to predict. There are obvious efficiency improvements that AI brings to data quality um, and master data management in terms of being able to identify new rules. For, matching is a perfect example. The AI capabilities properly trained can be so much more efficient around identifying matches and add efficiency and scalability. However, I think there's a dark side to it as well, which is AI brings one more question of trust into the equation. I'll just use search as an example of this. Users changed the way that we used search when predictive search first started being utilized by some of the big tech companies. Well, we're now starting to see that happen with AI as well. And smart consumers of search and data more generally are questioning what they're seeing, which is why it's so important for AI to be labeled as part of the process. And it does create this question in data users' minds whether the data can be trusted. So it's so important that the AI is being properly governed and properly managed as part of that process.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Danny, I'm guessing you have an opinion on this question as well. Would love to hear it.
When don't I have an opinion? Yeah, it's to us, AI is a win-win. And first one is selfish because we've been talking about getting your data house in order and trust in data and more value from data. And it's just been a smaller segment of organizations where that becomes a priority at the C-suite. But with AI and the excitement around it and the competitive situation that it sets up for just about every organization out there, has now brought that up to the level where we're actually having conversations with very important people with very important projects that really know that they need to get their data house in order. Now, from our perspective, governance and data quality have been, they've moved from manual to machine learning. So AI is going to be a boon for doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the governance side and making sure that you have consistency across all of your data assets and all of your data products and being able to leverage that to then, assist the stewards and folks that are responsible for setting that up. To get that done in a much more effective way. From a data quality perspective, we've seen, from our data quality offering, it's been a huge boon in terms of really identifying rules and challenges in there, coming up with very, very interesting remediation type suggestions, if you will, in terms of how we fix that, and really doing a great job of leveraging the semantics that are everywhere across your data landscape for much more value, because there's lots of value in metadata and having intelligent, very fast agents going out and bringing that into the mix and making your overall data quality mousetrap much better. The same thing, a lot of heavy lifting done, plus a lot of insight into the data that you may not have on your team within your organization and would have to learn through some very, very hard lessons. So I think it's a win-win because, now people are understanding they need to get their data house in order. And, with the capabilities that are out there, and as Dimitri said, watching this in 3 years should be pretty funny, but, it's really allowing organizations to focus on value to their organization, not so much on lifting and moving rocks.
That's a great point, and I think we should agree right now, 3 years from now, whatever's going on, we should come back and, do this again, and we can see where we were right, where we were wrong. But I certainly think it would be interesting. I think it would be interesting to the audience as well. Dimitri, I'm going to let you take first crack at this next question. What is one piece of advice you would offer our viewers today that are focused on making improvements in this area?
Yeah, well, data quality is a huge challenge. I think what on the plus side, it's getting more visibility within organizations than it ever has before, from the top down. Organizations are really recognizing data as a strategic asset. However, actually accomplishing that and accomplishing that trust in data within an organization is extremely complicated. I go back to, I think it was Ronald Reagan who said, trust but verify. And when it comes to data quality, I think that's really what I would recommend to organizations that are trying to achieve data is be skeptical of the data unless you actually understand the provenance of that data. So I'd like to use the metaphor that data in a complex organization follows the laws of physics. And in particular, it follows the law of entropy, which is that given time, data will tend towards chaos. Every time a system touches a piece of data within a complex organization, it likely or has the possibility of reducing the fidelity of that information. So being able to go back to the source of data and being able to verify and code data through metadata at the source and have that metadata scoring travel with the information throughout the organization is really critical. I don't think that data stewards often are in a position to understand the accuracy of what they're looking for. So data architects really need to think about that when they're building these systems.
That's a great point, and my house is the same way. Over time, it's chaos. It happens. Okay, Abhi, what's your take on this? What's one piece of advice you would offer folks?
Yeah, the one piece of advice I would say is, I think it's worked for me, and it's two-part actually. One is, think big, start small, but then you can scale fast from there. And that concept of having a bigger vision for what you want to accomplish is a general goal, but then, start small and then scale. When it comes to the start small part of it, that's where I think a really valuable thing to do is to align with business outcomes. So many data management projects are aligned with a data outcome in mind, just a data, not a business outcome, but a data outcome in mind. I just want to clean this data up for the sake of cleaning it. Well, what are you going to gain with that? Because some point somebody's going to ask you the question, you need money to do this effort to clean up this data or to get better quality. I mean, Dimitri and Danny have completely, sold me on what they're selling, because I think that we need more of that too, right? Is at some point you need good data quality. Who's going to invest? And who's going to get the value from it? If you can't draw the direct linkage to the business to say, this is how we're going to get value from it, this is how it's going to improve the business. When you can do that, you're going to be funded to solve these problems. So my one bit of advice is not to solve data problems for the sake of solving a data problem. Align it with the business outcome. I think you have a long, really long, great, journey in terms of delivering value.
That's solid advice. It's got to serve the business at the end of the day. Danny, what are your thoughts?
What Abhi said. I hate to. Yeah, again, I think that number one, I think you need a data intelligence strategy. I think that you need to understand from a business perspective, and not a technology strategy, not a data for data's sake type strategy, but again, a strategy that's going to align with the priorities of the business and the big bets that they're placing. Because again, if you want funding over time, you need to be aligned and you need to have visibility. So that's the job number one. And then again, to follow Abhi's guidance, pick a high value use case, because there's nothing better than proving it in your own environment. You can go out and use GPT or whatever it is that you're using to find a lot of statistics on what could happen and what people say has happened, but you need to see it happen in your own organization. It also helps you get buy-in from all of the different stakeholders, because there's a lot of different stakeholders that are out there. And really, prove that out within the organization, learn your lessons, and then make sure that your strategy has a piece in there that allows you to identify how you're going to scale that. And then the last one, it's a very personal thing with me, but for the AI folks that are out there, for God's sakes, when you're starting to develop AI, do a data model. Do a data model, not for the sake of the model itself, for the process of bringing people, technology, and data together, because we've been doing that for years. It works. It doesn't have to be a super technical model, a nice logical model that says, this is what we have. Do we all agree? Can we all start moving forward without having to take, one step forward and two steps back? But that's just a personal thing. So
I think that's good. I think that's solid advice. Okay, Uppy, we're going to start with you on this next question. Beyond technology, what about the people side of this issue? At the end of the day, how can organizations do a better job of organizing and building a culture that succeeds on this front? And to add on some things that you can talk about, what does success look like, and how do you measure ROI?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've noticed, at least in this space, is that data literacy is really, really important, and people to know how to use the data that they have around them. So one of the things that I think is really important is to educate your organization on how to properly leverage data, how to manage data, how to use data. I think data is as much of a technological problem as it is a people problem. And I think a lot of people need to be taught that what they're doing in their area of the business is generating a lot of data that's valuable to a lot of other parts of the organization, and how to be good stewards of that, how to make sure that what they're creating and what they're delivering is actually valuable and useful to other people right off the bat, instead of having to go through so many transformations and so many other things. And I think that takes education, because we live in data, so we see the value of it. Other people, believe it or not, live in data, but they don't think of it on a daily basis. Like, they just think of business outcomes. They just think about the business function that they're operating in. So I think it's really important for us to, be on the technology side, obviously, educating, doing a good job of educating various functional areas and organizations and business areas about how data works, what matters, and how to manage it.
I would agree. Data literacy is really important. Dimitri, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Abhi is saying, and I would take it one step further, which is not only educating data users within the organization, but empowering them as well. So I'm a true believer in Deming and the agile manufacturing process. And what we've seen in technology is agile methodology and concepts being applied really, really effectively in IT and software development and so forth. And the basic concept, it comes down to trust, and trust in the value of knowledge that people on the ground, in the manufacturing context, it was people on the line that had specialized knowledge that could be unlocked to really improve efficiency and quality within the organization. The same is true with data. So if you're looking at cultural change, I can't think of a better way to improve the culture of data utilization in an organization than to engage and empower individuals actually using that data. Because if it's looked at as a cost by users, you're going to get garbage in, garbage out. But if users are really entrusted and understand the value of what they're working with, they'll work hard to make sure that the data that they're contributing into the system is going to be of the highest value possible.
You got to have skin in the game. That makes perfect sense. Danny.
Yeah, with data literacy, as I had on one of my slides, an educated consumer is your best customer. So we've actually seen some of our customers starting to embed data literacy into their onboarding process, and now have plans to make sure that there are key performance metrics in individuals' performance assessment around how they leverage data in their job. And how they make that overall data environment and data usage scenario within their organization better. I think that you need to really, as part of your strategy, look at making sure there's as much cross-functional custodianship for this data. I'm not a fan of data owners because that makes it feel like it's mine, and nobody else can have it, and that doesn't help anybody. But I think that making sure that you have the right perspectives into the folks that are stewarding and the custodians of that data in the organization, the ones that are responsible for it at the end of the day, to make sure that we have perspectives. I used to be a human metadata repository and governor, came from the IT side, but wasn't very technical, so loved the business side. But you don't find that in everybody. So you want to make sure that you have that non-technical perspective in the ownership as well. And then just make sure that you're not just democratizing data, you're democratizing the entire process so that folks have a way to be part of the solution. And that can be done easily, and it's traceable, and it doesn't take people off the rails, but can really bring their tribal knowledge into, or maybe their past experiences in organizations into the mix as well. Because I think that's super powerful when you get all of those folks getting their shoulder behind the rock and pushing it. You're going to get much better results.
Sure, team effort, absolutely. Danny, I'm going to let you start off with our next question. This should hopefully be an easy one. What trend are you most excited about moving forward?
Well, I think, for us, really being able to, we've had, active metadata within our solutions for a long time, and really feel that there's a lot of value in the metadata that's spread all across the organization, and really leveraging that for the good. I think AI is going to really put that to the next generation in terms of velocity and possibilities, if you will. So very, very excited about that. And then, getting good generative AI to be able to curate that data further than the way that we do it today. All right. And really bringing that in so that we can leverage that again to not just improve the game, but change the game, because it's changing the game everywhere else. There's no reason why it won't change the game in the things that we are trying to do. But that in itself, and this concept of a data product where people are really finally looking at something, it's like agile process around, technology application development, data development as well, but treating it as a product, I think, is really going to elevate the game as well. So those are the things that I'm kind of excited about.
Understood. Yeah, no, we've seen a lot of interest around data products. Avi, I'll let you go next. What are you most excited about?
Yeah, thanks. And I think it comes down to the foundations of where we come from, our perspective of things, which is data unification. I think I'm really excited in seeing the fact that we're building out, we built a platform that I think will resonate in the industry and across various industries, and in this domain of data management, of bringing data and breaking down silos, bringing that data, exposing that data. I use the word exposing, maybe bring some transparency is a better way to say it. Bring some transparency to this data, bringing it in a central location, and just kind of creating that golden record, right? We are, that is what we do, our daily bread and butter. I am still very passionate about that, because I think doing that still matters for everything else anybody wants to explore in terms of doing things with data. For example, any AI initiative, anything related to trust, anything related to quality, all of these things that we're talking about. I think when you unify and bring it together, I think it, to me, that is where the magic happens. Now, having said that, I think the concept of a customer 360, the concept of that 360-degree view for anything that you wanna bring together, I think that is exciting to me. The fact that companies can have a single place to go for this robust view of what's going on with a specific entity in their organization.
And it doesn't just have to be about AI. It could simply be about improving decision making in general, which is typically what organizations are looking for. Dimitri, what has you most excited?
Well, I'm going to go in a slightly different direction on this one. Consumers have never had more power than they do today, and not just with data. Data in particular is creating power for consumers in ways that we have never really seen before. And my haircut will betray the fact that I've been at this for a few decades. And back when I started in this industry, I had to convince our clients why data quality was important. I don't have to convince them anymore. The thing I'm really excited about is that evidence-based decision making is having its day. and I think it's here to stay. And now that people can see how much power data actually has in accomplishing, solving really difficult problems, not just in commercial context, but if you think about the use of evidence-based decision-making and data in healthcare, in public policy, we're only scratching the surface, and I think consumers are really going to drive that trend.
That's a great point. The bell rung. We're past the top of the hour, but everyone's still in their seats. So real quick, lightning round. And Dimitri, we're going to start with you. One thing you'd like everybody to remember coming away from today's event, what would that be?
Empower teams to understand the value of data and contribute trusted data to the organization. And I think that will pay dividends down the line.
Okay. Abhi, what about you?
I think, it goes back to the same thing. I think it goes back to building data literacy, and I'm still big on that, transparency, and of course, data unification. So it's not one thing. I did 3 things, but I think I definitely believe in those 3 principles. Educating everybody on what data management means, unifying the data, and bringing about transparency.
It's tough. It's like, what's your favorite food or rock song? There's a lot to pick from. I totally understand. Annie.
Data products. Treating data as a product from the time that you're thinking about it and envisioning that data. I've spent a lifetime trying to bring together data that was never intended to be brought together. So, again, think big picture. You've got to satisfy your requirement that's in front of you, but please do the favors for the folks that have come behind you. Make sure that you understand not just what the data is going to do for you from a day-to-day operational. Make sure that you think about what the potential of that data is for your organization. And then as you deliver that data to your organization, keep that in mind.
Great advice. And I think we are going to do a webinar on data products at some point soon, because that is a very important topic. So for now, though, I'd like to give a huge thank you to our speakers today for coming on board and sharing their insights and expertise. Once again, Avi Vasuvasam, Field CTO at Reltio, Dimitri Garter, Director of Special Projects at Melissa, and Danny Sandwell, Technology Strategist at Airwind by Quest. So if you in attendance would like to review this presentation or send it to a colleague, you can use the same exact URL that you used for today's live event. We'll make it easy for you. This will be archived. It'll probably be up tomorrow afternoon, and you will receive an email once the archive is posted to let you know so you can check it out. And if you would like a PDF of the deck, you can go to the handout section once the archive is live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, guys.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.